Rev it up, Surly Talk Sports, screaming in off the back fence with a huge pod before I gap it off to Perth tomorrow afternoon. Absolutely fizzing to be heading over to the UFC. Of course, 305 going down in Perth this weekend. A stacked card full of Kiwi talent, headlined, of course, by that middleweight bout scrap between Izzy and Dricus du Plessis. Never been to a UFC event, let alone one overseas, so can't wait to sink my teeth into everything that Perth has to offer while experiencing a UFC card live in the flesh. We'll be doing some content for the TAB as well as for personal stuff as well, so stay tuned to the stories throughout the weekend if you want to follow along. Speaking of the TAB, of course, headline sponsor of this podcast as well, so shout out to them for supporting Surly Talk Sports. And as always, the STS code exclusive for podcast listeners is back for another Warriors game this week. If you're a regular listener, you know the drill, but if you're new here, type in the code STS50 on the TAB app or website in the bonus cash section before you place a bet on the Warriors vs Manly game on your Friday night. And however much money you chuck on that game, the TAB will match your bet in bonus cash up to $50. It applies to any option in that Warriors Manly game, can be a boosted option including the Surly Boost, which is a doozy this week. Power plays, same game multis, whatever floats your boat, as long as it falls under that game, then it's play on. For example, chuck 50 on the Surly Boost after you've chucked the STS code in, and you'll get $50 in bonus cash as a result. So shout out to the TAB. I know a lot of you have been claiming those codes too and really enjoying your bonus cash, putting it to work and turning it into a nice little profit. So shout out to them for dishing up some extra value for the listeners. Better Beer, really appreciate their support too. It's the official beer of the Surly Talk Sports podcast. She's zero carbs, only 87 calories, a grouse drop, all the benefits of a nice tasting beer, but without the detrimental effects on your rig with the low carb counts. If you're having a few tins this weekend, a couple Simon Cannerings, then make sure you head along to your bottle shop, grab yourself a box, comes in the cans or the bottles. She's always a day for it whenever Better Beer is in the mixer. But without further ado, so much sport to chew through this week. NRL, Rugby, All Blacks upset, NPC, UFC, Olympics wrap. So let's get into it. How bloody good. 23 rounds in the books already for the NRL, and crazy to think there's only 4 more rounds before we get into finals footy. Seems like this year has flown by, but there's plenty of signing news that's gone on in the last 7 days to rip into, as well as some big results. Valentine Holmes to the Dragons. He's signed up for 3 years, going to join his old coach in Shane Flanagan. Of course, those two, they won a premiership a little while back now at the Sharkies. They're losing Zach Lomax as well, so I think Val is a great signature for them. The Cowboys, they're clearly prioritising signing a lot of their young guns. They were happy to let Val go on big salary and seek out interest elsewhere. The Dragons, one of those sides with plenty of money on the cap. They're losing Zach Lomax, so they were already in the market for a rep-level centre or winger and a goal kicker too, so Val ticks all of those boxes. Keen to see how the Dragons go next year. Of course, they're already in the hunt for the 8 this year, punching well above their weight. Add Valentine and Damien Cook, you do lose a Zachy Lomax, but that's 2 great grabs for them. So well done to Shane Flanagan. Looks like he's doing great things already in year 1 at St. George. Jarrell Skelton, the big winger from the Bulldogs, he's off to the Tigers for 2 years. Looks sharp in limited opportunities. Of course, the Doggies, they got Adokar, they got Kiraz, they got Blake Willison, plenty of talent in the outside back, so they're just struggling to fit them all in to the playing 30. Skelton only had limited opportunities in rugby league in general. I think it's year 2 or 3 for him in the game. He's a huge body, powerful ball runner, racked up over 300 metres the other week against the Broncos. So this is a massive chance for him to head to the Tigers and give first grade a real crack. When you look at that Tigers backline next year, got guys like Api Coruscant, Lockie Galvin, old Galvin Klein, Adam Dewey, Jerome Luai, Sinia Taruva, Skelton, Jareem Buller, Justin Olam. Benji's starting to build something there. They'll probably win their 4th 4th or so straight spoon, but a great signature for them nonetheless. Ewan Aitken, he's following Wayne Bennett, the old super coach, to the Bunnies. Of course, used to be a Warrior, then he went over to the Dolphins with Wayne, and now he's going to South as well. A great signature for them. One of those players who just always empties the tank. He's a quality footballer, safe as houses on defense, a bit of a limited upside on offense, but his versatility is just invaluable. He can play centre, he can play in the second row. Basically, you could chuck him in anywhere and he'll do a job. So a massive get there for South as they continue to build their stocks to hopefully have a much improved 2025 season. And then Blaze Talangi, the worst kept secret, he's announced that he is off to Penrith, looking to wear that 6 jersey and partner with Nathan Cleary in the halves, and he's signed there until the end of 2027. Still only 19 years old, been going great guns for Para in the centres and on the wing. Has said he wants to play half or fullback, those are his two preferred positions, and where he came up through the grade, there's no better opportunity to do so and excel than playing at Penrith, that nursery they have, and outside the best number 7 in the world. Extremely keen to see how he goes. Gonna be interesting stuff. Speaking of the Red V and a Flanagan, this time it's his son Kyle in a bit of hot water. Of course, that biting incident, she's been doing the rounds throughout the week. Lots of people with split decisions on this one. It's been a bit divided, the opinions out there amongst the rugby league community. Buzz Rothfield and co, they're saying that Critter deserved to get his nose bit and there was not much Flanagan could do. Then you've got the other side which says biting in any shape or form is not acceptable in the great game. I kind of sit down the middle, to be fair. Look, Crichton was right up in his face, rubbing his mush all over him, pretty much put his nose in his mouth and really was asking for something to be done. It would be frustrating as the defender. You get dominated in the collision and then someone's just rubbing their face in yours. I don't blame Kyle for having that reaction. At the same time though, biting, for me, that's the lowest of lows. It's up there with spitting on someone. There's just no room for it in the game, and I do see he's got 4 weeks now, so his season potentially over unless they make finals. It's a big price to pay, but clearly the NRL, they want to stamp this out, and fair enough too. Broncos, big win for them on the weekend, but it came at a big cost. Their season finals hopes still alive, but they'll be without Reece Walsh for at least 3 to 4 weeks as he seeks further medical advice as to whether to have surgery on his broken hand. A real tough loss for them, that high-octane offense. Walshy plays such a big part in that. They're starting to lose bodies too. No Ezra, no Payne in the half, so you'd have to think that's going to be a mountain too big for them to climb, but a tough result there for Walshy, who's had a pretty hard year, to be fair. Got dominated in Origin, tossed around a little bit, but since then he's been playing great guns for the Bronx, so sad to see him bow out for the last few weeks of the season. Moses Leo, NZ7 superstar, rumours across the ditch that he is being recruited by the Melbourne Storm to join them from 2025, of course, fresh off the back of a pretty disappointing Sevens campaign for the All Blacks Sevens side. They went in as red-hot favourites to at least walk away with a medal of some form. Unfortunately, went down to South Africa in the quarterfinals, but I love this for Moses, and personally, I'd prefer he stayed at the Warriors, of course. I think he'd be a great fit for us. In my humble opinion, we're missing a bit of speed in that back line. A winger with out-and-out pace, powerful ball runner, great skill set. One-on-one, he's an absolute nightmare. Then on defence, he's not afraid to rough it up and get into the tough stuff as well. Sevens, we've already seen how well it can translate into rugby league off the back of our girls going over and ripping up an NRLW over the weekend. Plus, you got William Warbrick really setting the template here for Leo. Jumped across to Melbourne, and he's been playing unreal footy on the wing there as well, so he would be a great get for the Storm. You'd have to think he probably wouldn't be asking for crazy money either, more just the opportunity to play in the NRL. So again, this could be a masterclass by Bellamy. They always unearth these talents, find ways to pick up quality players for massive unders so they fit under the cap, and Moses Leo would be another one of those. Hopefully Cappy and the crew at the Warriors, though, they slide into his DMs. Now they know that rugby league is an option for Moses. And then last but certainly certainly not least in terms of your news before we get into last week's games. The Sydney Morning Herald, they're reporting that the NRL is set to bring back the 100-metre sprint race on grand final day, just like the old days, and I absolutely love this. Been calling for it for a while. To be honest, I'd prefer that it was during the All-Stars game, not during the grand final. That way, you get everyone in the mixer, so if your team's in the grand final, you're not ruled out of the sprint race. At the same time, though, this is going to get maximum bums on seats. It's the biggest day in the game, and what a great advertisement as well. For so long, we've wondered who's the quickest going around. Is it your AKPs, your Dom Young, Jason Saab, Josh Adokar, Tolu Kola, the Hammer, Bronson Jerry? There's some genuine flyers throughout this game, and I would love to see them all go at it head to head. At the same time, it did get me thinking too, who would the Warriors send over? I mentioned before we don't have a genuine flyer, but the chat around the camp is that Luke Metcalf, he can move, man, so maybe it's him or Dallin that would represent the mighty red, blue and green on grand finals day. That would be some race though. You chuck the likes of your Reece Walsh in there too, guys with acceleration off the mark that's second to none. I would love to see this. There's also chat that there'll be other skills challenges in the mixer too, passing, kicking, all that type of stuff as the NRL look to package up the full product. They're chasing sponsorship for this, could be in play as early as this year as well, so exciting times there for rugby league fans. Into your big results from last week though, we'll kick her off with Penrith pulling off that unbelievable comeback against Parramatta, down 34 points to 20 with 6 minutes to go. It looked like they were dead and buried, but Penrith, they're just so calm and calculated under pressure. They never looked like they panicked. They didn't change the way they play, back their systems, wore Para down, scored 3 quick tries to take a 36 to 34 point lead. Gutho, unfortunately for him, he had the opportunity to kick a penalty to take things to golden point. Hooked it far to the left. It was a disappointing nudge for him, and to be honest, I feel like he's done this a few times now. I can't remember if it was earlier this year or back end of last year. He had a couple big kicks to take games to golden point or to get them the win, and he didn't just miss them. He had absolute shockers on them. So Gutho clearly hates a clutch nudge. Nathan Cleary doesn't though. He banged over several ones to get them the dub. Unreal stuff from Penrith. That machine just keeps on rolling. The Sharks, they pumped the Titans 44 points to 0 up in the Gold Coast as well. A bizarre result for me. The Titans, they had everything to play for. The Sharks, they were on a bit of a slide without Trindle and Nico Hines. 44 points to 0. I don't think anyone in their right mind saw that scoreline coming. So well done to the Sharkies. Broncos, mentioned before, they kept their slim finals hopes alive. Ran amok in Townsville, 42 points to 18. And again, you just leave this weekend confused about the Cowboys. Just as you start to jump in and say, look, they could be a genuine top 4 side and a grand final contender, they dish up a performance like this, which has you almost ready to put a line through them. Tony Staggs, he was unreal, showed that on his day he can be the best attacking centre in the game, was a real rugby league handful, breaking tackles left, right and centre, and had that bit of that swagger about him. Just give me the ball and I'll make something happen. The Cowboys, they were pretty awful. They dropped to 7th now. They're still, of course, in the top 8, so they do look like they'll be playing September football, but really hard to get a Kieran Reid on those blokes. Manly, they're up and about. Pumped Canberra in Canberra, 46 points to 24. Tommy Turbo running amok, still doesn't look 100% healthy to me, and you just watch him. Every time he gets the ball or he goes into a collision, always gets up a little tender, and it doesn't quite look like he's running at full speed as well. Not quite trusting the hamster yet, but at the same time, an 80% Tommy Turbo is better than 99% of players in the competition, and with him firing, if they can get him back to full health and full confidence, they're going to be a bloody hard side to beat come September as well. Doggies, they got a big win, 28 points to 10 over the Dragons at Cogra. She was sold out, a huge crowd. Doggies fans continue to show that elite passion. They've now won 5 of their last 6 games. Shout out to Josh Curran, of course, friend of the show, ex-Warrior, the mulleted menace. Strapped that headgear on and went to work yet again. He's become that hybrid, that Prius in the middle of the pack, and he's cemented himself as one of the best props going round too. You'd have to think state of origin, things like that. If he can keep up this form back end of the year and into the start of next year. He's well and truly in with a sniff, and good to see him getting big raps over the ditch in Australia as well. And then finally, the Knights, Fletcher Sharp, 4 tries for them, the young 20-year-old winger, as they bet up on the Tigers, win a game which was one for the purists. Knights still in with a sniff too. They're part of this congested group just outside of the 8 and needing to win multiple games on their run home to book themselves a playoff berth. But this was a great dub for them, and shout out to Fletcher Sharp. Shit, is that kid electric. Then on to the Warriors, of course, save the best to last, as I always do. And this one was another heartbreaker, a genuine ball buster, as we went down 34 points to 32 at Suncorp Stadium on your Sunday arvo. The lads again put in a huge effort, and it was an entertaining game to watch as we came flying back. 20 points to 6 down at Oranges. Webby clearly filled them up with vitamin C, gave the boys a bit of a bollocking. They came out in the second half, flipped the momentum on its head and really responded, forced the game to golden point, but just another of these close losses, which has been the story of our season. Again, we had some great individual performances, so we'll touch on those, and we'll start with the outside backs, who for me, they set the tone week in and week out at the moment. I feel like over the last 4 to 6 weeks, these 3 in particular have put in massive knocks. Mr. Safest Houses, Chance Nickel Klukstad, Dallin Watene-Zalesniak, and then Roger Tuivasa-Sheck. The 3 of them, they combined for 658 running metres. Their workout of yardage, it's got to be right up there with the best in the competition, and I actually do think we run for the most metres per game as a team in the comp, which is obviously a large testament to the work of these 3. There was multiple times again, like I mentioned in that para game, where they're taking 2 or 3 carries in a set as well. All 3 of them, no regard for their body, 0 handbrakes, and while they're all known for the silky stuff, the razzle, Dell known for those acrobatic finishes, Roger for his fast footwork, man, they're as tough as shit, and they can back fence it with the best of them, which you love to see. Ali Lautoa again showed his strike and athleticism on attack, scored himself a try, should have had 2 if he hadn't unfortunately dropped the ball over the line, which was a bit of a tough pill to swallow. He had 2 line breaks, 147 metres off 11 carries. That's his highest metre total in his young NRL career so far. Unfortunately, had to leave the game with a bit of brain cell depletion due to some friendly fire from Ed Cossey. Copped his knee to his head after crossing the try line, but 3 tries in 5 games this season. He's an extremely strong ball runner, got silky hands, did have a tough day defensively, but I like how he goes after his opposite. He's not just looking to make a tackle, he's aggressive, pushes up hard, looks to put on a big shot and dominate the collision. Only 6 games into his NRL career, the signs are extremely positive for Ali. Did have some poor misses on defence, thought him and Cossey got targeted, came up with a few bad reads, but overall, I think there's so much potential to this lad. He's already shown he's one of the game's elite attacking threats. Tidy up those little errors and missed tackles in his game, and I think 2025 could be a huge year for our young strike centre. Tamaire Martin, another strong showing from him, 3 try assists, 160 run metres, which is massive numbers for a 7, and those 3 try assists actually took him to 16 for the year, which is equal 7th in the NRL. It's also a try assist a game, which is going great guns. Impressively, 14 of those try assists have also come in his last 7 starts at halfback. So opportunities that have been presented this year, of course, due to the bad health of SJ. Tamaire Martin, he's taken those with both hands. Unfortunately, suffered a bit of a neck injury this week, listed as out indefinitely, so we might not see T for the rest of the season, but shout out to him. He stepped in and done a bloody good job. Not easy boots to fill for the old Prince of Penrose, but Tamaire showing he can dish out seeds and meaties like all good world-class 7s can. Then into the engine room, and I got to give a quick shout out to multiple players here. Adam Fanua-Blake, 204 run metres. That's almost run-of-the-mill for him at this stage. Our big fella through the park, loves a PCM, a post-contact metre, and he was great again against the Finns. Wade Egan got through a mountain of work defensively, 47 tackles, and I think he's ranked in the top 10 for overall total tackles, averaging about 37 per game. No regard for his body. His technique makes me a little nervous at times, but he's always showing his jersey, getting in front, and this was another massive tackle tally from him. Played all 83 minutes as well, didn't take a spell. Shit, does he have a motor on him? Kurt Capewell, he was all effort again. Again, another guy who got through 83 minutes, always leading up our kick chase and getting involved into everything. His form post-Origin has really gone up another notch. And then I wanted to highlight the return of young gun Dimitri Sifakula. Only played 12 minutes, but ran for 50 metres, 2 tackle breaks, a line break, a try, and a hissing headbutt on Tamare Martin when celebrating that try as well. Clearly a little try-sally gone wrong, a bit of friendly fire there, but Dimitri, just love this from him. He's had a long layoff coming back from ACL surgery, and it's not easy to come back from a big injury like that, go straight back into the middle. He's transitioned from the second row into that propping role. Big body, looks like he's put on some size, but he's still powerful and quick, and his ball playing ability as well is going to see him be a real threat through the middle of the paddock. He's got that enforcer about him. He's a leader of these young guns, that next crop coming through. They turn to him. He's got that real follow me type of attitude. So really keen to see what Demi can become in the future when you look at our young propping stocks as well. Yes, we lose Adam Fanor-Blake, which is bloody hard boots to fill, but Fisher Harris, Barnett, Zion Mai'u, Dimitri Sifakula, and then Toby Crosby, who's carving up in the Pathways program. The future looks bright in the 8 and 10 jersey, and for those young 3 lads in particular, to be able to learn from mentors like Fish and Barney, that is going to be massive for their game. But back to this game, of course, touched on it before, 7th game of the year, we've lost by 6 or less points. We missed 45 tackles, which really hurt us. 11 of those were on the herbivore, Herbie Farnworth as well, who showed his class. Feel like he always has a field day against us, that basket, but I say it every week, it's just these little errors, these one-on-one defensive misses, lapses at crucial times that are really hurting us. Even Mitch Barnett had a standard run-of-the-mill carry on halfway, came up with an error. The Dolphins then go down and score points off the back of that set. Again, we had opportunities to win this game. A few tries went begging, a couple of missed conversions, and 2 attempts at a field goal. I did feel like for the final 40 minutes of this game, we were the much better side, and once we picked up momentum and started turning it on, I thought we were going to get the win for sure, but unfortunately, Golden Point, our downfall. Wanted to touch on the art of the field goal quickly as well, because looking around social media, lots of couch critics out there saying that surely it can't be that hard, you just bang it over. Unfortunately, it's not that easy when you factor in all the external factors as well. You've got an opposition side, so often they're not back 10, referee puts the whistle away, lets them jump early, they're about 7 or 8 metres back. The Dolphins were way offside on that second attempt from Chanel there, but clearly they're not going to call that. So you got an offside defensive line screening up to put pressure on you. You got 1 second to catch the ball, drop it on your boot, strike it perfectly and try send it over the sticks. Quite often too, these kicks just aren't 10 metres out right in front. They're 30 or 40 metres back on a slight angle. It's probably the hardest skill to master in the game, and that's why guys like DCE, Nathan Cleary, even your Cooper Cronks, Thurstons from back in the day, they were known for banging those over, and that's why they're regarded as the game's elite. On that, shout out to Sean O'Sullivan. Heck of a nudge from him, and while this loss did hurt, at the same time, you just had to tip your hat to the bloke about 43 odd metres out on a horrible angle when the Dolphins went to that far right-hand touchline on 4th tackle. I thought they'd absolutely cooked it, set him up for almost an impossible nudge, but he struck it straight down the middle. Bloody impressive stuff from old Sean O'Sullivan, a player that's been in and out of the Redcliffe Dolphins lineup for a long time. So hats off to him. A tough pill to swallow though, wasn't to be at Suncorp. Shout out to all the Wars fans who showed up, and we go again next week. But actually, before I move on, wanted to shout out a couple of the results from our other teams as well. New South Wales Cup side, good dub for them, 28 points to 10 over the Bunnies out at Bruce Pullman Park. Lukey Met, Old Met the Jet got through 80 minutes, which was pleasing to see. 2 try assists, a line break, almost 400 kick meters, 4 from 5 off the tee too. He's a real accurate goal kicker, which could well come in handy, and he almost scored a hissing try too. Took 4 Bunnies defenders to stop him, so it looks like he's back. And then Jersey Flag, they had a good dub as well. 22 points to 10, also over the Bunnies. Toby Crosby, what a try that was. And of course, if you haven't seen the clip, the Future Warriors posted it on their Instagram. This bloke is a wrecking ball. Only his first year of rugby league, made the switch across from rugby union, used to play for the Upper Hutt Rams, but was told he wasn't going to be in Wellington's calculations over the next few years. Played 8 in union, transitioning into prop at the moment. Literally looks like it's men up against boys. Caught the ball off a kickoff, ran through about 8 of them, and that disrespectful move he put on the fullback, just toyed with him a little, and then gave him the Greg Inglis fend of doom to dot down and go the length of the field. Rumours he broke the club's bench press record in the pre-season, bet Jacob Lillyman's long-standing record. If you've seen his Instagram page as well, he's a weapon in the gym, can literally squat a village of people almost. Loves wrestling, loves training, loves the diet, looks like he's really locked in. So I'm keen to see how he progresses over the next few years. Speaking to some Warriors coaches, actually had a yarn with Slade Griffin about him at that Bulldogs game over in Sydney, and he was saying the potential, the talent there is massive. Just needs to lock down some of the finer details of rugby league that you won't have being new to the game. Things like trying to get involved into everything, being a loose forward in rugby, follows the ball a lot, and just sharpening up his lateral movements because he's not used to going backwards and sideways at speed. But promising signs for Toby, and can't wait to see what he becomes in the next few years. But time to look ahead now, of course, and onto this week we go. Tonight's game, massive. You literally couldn't kick off round 24 with a bigger matchup. I reckon this is probably the biggest game of the season so far. Strap yourselves in. A predicted grand final preview, the cream of the crop, going at it hammer and tongs to see who will be crowned minor premiers on your Thursday night. Bellamy up against Ivan, Hughes and Munster up against Cleary and Luai. Some massive matchups all across the park. Pretty crazy to think too, these two sides have won the minor premiership combined for the last 5 years straight. 3 for Penrith and 2 for the Storm. Unfortunately, a few injuries for Penrith, but I do think this game is going to be all go, and there'll be plenty of feeling in this one. Of course, when the two sides clashed in round 1 earlier in the year, it was the Storm who put in a massive defensive effort to beat the Panthers 8-0 and keep their incredible round 1 winning streak intact. Surely the Panthers won't be held to 0 points again. It's bloody hard to keep that team from scoring tries. They'll be up for redemption as well, and they're a hard team to be critical of, to be fair, but for Patches, over the last couple weeks, they've looked pretty beatable at times. Some Nathan Cleary masterclasses have got them out of trouble, so they're going to have to be on their game here. You just get the feeling, though, both of these sides, they've been targeting this one, circled it in their calendars, and they're going to empty the tank here for sure. Panthers, mentioned they got a couple injuries. They'll be without both their starting second rowers, Scotty Sorensen and Liam Martin, both out with injury, so Maverick Geyer gets the start. That's got to be one of the great rugby league names, Maverick Geyer. The kid is just born to dominate. And positive news, fullback Dylan Edwards, he's a chance to return from the knee injury, as is Fisher Harris, both named on an extended remu, and if they come into this side, that'll be a massive gain for Ivan. For the Storm, Ali Katoa, he's been named to come back in off the back of a knee niggle, so Melbourne pretty much full strength, and alongside Nelson Asafa Solomona starting at 8, they have the forward pack to go toe-to-toe with a depleted Panthers side. That battle through the middle is going to be huge. Full Fizz Friday, Manly vs the Warriors, 8 PM Friday night. What a time slot. One we do so well at Go Media, but now we take it on the road to Brookvale and look to pull off one of the great upsets and come away with the chocolates. If you look at the TAB odds, which we'll touch on later in the pod, the bookies are giving us no chance, which for me is where we do our best work. Backs against the wall, we always stand tall. Add to that the narrative, Sean Johnson back in the mixer, and this is the last time he will take take on his old foe in Daly Cherry Evans. Of course, played each other in the grand final in their rookie years in the NRL, and since then they've gone on to have some great matchups, some huge rivalries, two of the Elite Sevens, the People's Neck and the Prince of Penrose. So looking forward to the final chapter of that individual battle. Lukey Metcalf named on an extended bench. I legit think there's a chance that we could see him come into this team too, and this is just my thoughts, no inside information, but for me, that SJ Lukey Met pairing was great up until round 4, where unfortunately Metcalf got injured, but I think that is the best combination we have in the halves at the moment. So how I see it playing out, Met into the 6, CHT into 14, and then someone like Freddie would probably drop out. Of course, didn't get a run last week, Freddie, in the 83 minutes, so you'd have to think he's right on the verge of the 17 there. But Metcalf, strong ball player, got a good kicking game, but it's more his ability to create something from nothing. He gives us massive strike there on our left side attack, complementing him with SJ's ball playing as well. It really is a recipe for success, so hopefully we get to see Metcalf, if not this week, then next week, as he works his way back into the squad. Tamare Martin, of course, mentioned before, neck injury, so he wasn't up for selection. A tough shift there for T, because he's been great whenever given an opportunity. Great to see Adam Pompey, Marcelo Montoya both come back into the side as well, and cool to see how much love Pompey's been getting on the team naming post on the Waz Insta as well. Never thought I'd see it. Of course, 2 years ago, people were literally trying to chase him out with a pitchfork, but he's been so good for this club over the last couple seasons, played every game for us last year. Unfortunately, wasn't able to back up that durability this year as he comes back from injury this week, but his footwork, so underrated, got a nice distribution game on him, and more importantly, his goal kicking. He's turned himself into one of the sharpshooters in the comp, and he will be great to have back. And then Marcelo, I spoke before about our back three and how they love to back fence it. This bloke, he probably leads them in terms of that. Zero regard for his body, ultimate competitor, hype man too. The boys love him, great culture captain, so I'm looking forward to his addition back into the 17 as well. Of course, last time we played Manly, that was that golden point draw back in round 6, so we've got a nice little history up against them as well. Josh Aloiai, he comes back from a knee injury, so Nathan Brown shifts to the bench. Would love to see someone flatten him off his trademark kick returns as well. Tolu Kola, he's listed as 18th man, and if he makes his way into the side, then we'll have to be on red alert whenever he gets the ball. Manly, plenty of attacking threats. Homoliola Kawatu, Luke Brooks, DCE, Tommy Turbo, Ruben Garrick, Jason Saab, the Submarine. So we're going to have to be on both sides of the football, but I genuinely do think if we get into the arm wrestle with this side, there's two quite contrasting versions of Manly that can show up. You got the high-flying gulls that we saw on the weekend, or the side we saw a couple weeks back that can be really disappointing. We're almost back to full strength now. This is the Warriors team we would have loved to have had week in and week out throughout this year. So backs against the wall, $5 underdogs. I'll be jumping on that for sure. It's our final 3-game stretch. We're still a mathematical chance as well. I see people out there in the media saying our finals hopes are over. Well, I've got the abacus out and I've crunched the numbers, the results that we need to go our way for the rest of the season. I won't go into that right now, but what I will say is if you're riding at home from the comfort of your couch, these are the games we need to go our way in round 24. We need to beat the Gulls, of course, take care of our own job. Then the Dogs need to beat the Dolphins. The Cowboys need to beat the Raiders. Titans beat the Dragons. Sharks beat the Knights. And then we roll into round 25 still with a sniff. All of those results, well and truly doable. So let's hope we get the big box tick first up and then watch the rest of the weekend play out. Of course, we'll be motivated as well. SJ farewell, Jazz departing the club, Adam departing the club, a couple others as well. We need to rip and get the 2 points so that we can finish the season on the high, regardless of if we play finals or not. You want to be winning every game from here on out. Then your second game of the night, Roosters take on the Eels at Allianz. Roosters fresh off the bye with the remaining of their 4 games as well, up against sides currently sitting outside the top 8. So they'll be looking to well and truly cement themselves in the top 4, book themselves a home game in the first round and buy themselves a second life for finals as well. Same 17 that bet the Dolphins for them in round 22, so they're in good health. Then the Eels, they're just out to try and spoil parties at the moment, and they've done a pretty good job of it lately too. Did a number on us at Mount Smart 2 weeks ago and then almost pipped the Panthers last week, so they'll be up for this one. Should be a good watch. Super Saturday kicks off with another barnstormer there too. Some great games this weekend, plenty with finals ramifications. Dogs versus the Finns, that should be a great game. In Bundaberg, which is pretty rare. Doggies, a Sydney club, they've taken a home game to Queensland. I do rate that, but I have a question for all of you, because I actually think I'm jumping on board the Doggies bandwagon if we can't make finals. Of course, Warriors, they're my team, ride or die, my favourite sporting team in the world, but I always believe if we're out of the mixer, you need someone to ride home and hope that they go through to the big dance. Doggies got that Josh Curran factor. They also got Cam Serraldo, who used to be an assistant coach with Webby at the Panthers, so there's a nice link there as well. Yes, their fans can be a bit prickly at times, some of the most feral in the comp, I have to say, but at the same time, their team is extremely likeable. When you got guys like Critter, Viliami Kikau, Matt Burton, Reed Marnie, you can't help but get swept up in the momentum that they've created this year. They're almost like the Warriors of last year in terms of the way they've turned around their season, and now they're a genuine top 4 shot. Penrith, wouldn't mind seeing them pull off the 4-peat, but for me, I'd like to see the winners come from those two if the Warriors aren't a factor. So flick me through your second team, and if that's play on or not. If not, then hey, I'll throw that idea right out the window. But Doggies, last time they played finals footy, 2016. They haven't finished higher than 11th for the last 7 seasons. They're a chance here to push their way into the top 4 and continue to apply pressure on the Cronulla Sharks. Dolphins, of course, beat us last week, but they have been battling a bit over the last couple of weeks, and I do expect them to slide and not stay in the top 8. Both teams, though, 2 points here, massive for the remainder of their season, so that should be a goodie. Cowboys versus Raiders, both teams looking to bounce back from losses in that one and get 2 points as well. Turns out Toddy Payton, no longer a big Chad guy, he's dropped Townsend for none other than Clifford the Big Red Dog and Jakey Clifford. His last appearance in first grade was round 17, which was actually his first game for the year as well. Got booted over to the Super League, he's come back to the Cows, and now he finds himself in the saddle conducting this team as they look to go deep into September. Jeremiah Nanai, he'll miss the game after suffering a head knock, so that's a big blow for their attack. For the Raiders, Jordan Rapana, he's out with brain cell depletion too. Hard game to predict this one, the Townsville factor. That will probably play a part, but at the same time, Ricky's Raiders more than capable of pulling off the upset, depending what Cowboys side we get dished up. Tigers versus Bunnies, that's the last game on your Saturday night, 15th versus 17th, so let's skip that one. If you're watching that, you're a genuine rugby league sicko, and I tip my hat to you. Super Sunday, Dragons Titans, huge game for both sides. Again, they both copped L's last weekend and they're fighting to keep their top 8 chances alive. Add to that, one of the greats of the game, Kieran Foran, his 300th NRL game, an absolute weapon. 34 years young, 15th year in the comp, started at Manly, went to Para, then to the Wars for a year, Doggies, back to Manly, and now at the Titans. And to make this even more special, he becomes the first Titans player to rack up that milestone while at the club as well. So hats off to the fossil, old Foz. Whenever he pulls on the jersey, whether it's in the NRL or for the Kiwis, he never backs down to anyone. He is an aging body, but man, he throws it all out there. Physical, doesn't shy away from anything. An elite ball player, great kicking game, strong defensively too. Had a really underrated career career, and it's great to see him achieve this milestone, particularly with some of the stuff he's been through both on and off the field as well. So shout out to Foz for the Dragons. Number of changes for them. Jackie Bird back in the mixer. Good to see as well the old 4-seat recliner, the couch, Toby Couchman, come back from suspension. And then Hame Sally, their prop as well. Shout out to him, who was taken to hospital with chest pains and shortage of breath during that Bulldogs game. A pretty scary injury to suffer. Seems like he's going to be okay long term though, and that is the main thing. He's been playing unreal this year, so keep your eyes tuned for updates on him. When I first heard the news, straight away you can't help but get worried, so fingers crossed he continues to make a full recovery there. Then you got the Sharks taking on the Knights. Knights climbed to within 2 points of the top 8 with their victory last week. The Sharks, they're locked into the top 4 at the moment, but the Bulldogs sniffing down their necks and just 2 points behind them. Craig Fitzgibbon, he's got the luxury of hopefully bringing back some of his big guns this week. Tricky Trindle, Ronaldo Molitalo, Braden Hamlin-Uele, all named on an extended bench and look likely to come back in. For the Knights, just the one change for them, Dylan Lucas back after a hamstring injury. Battle of the brothers in this one too. The other week we got the Lussick brothers. This week it's the Brayley brothers, with Newcastle's Jaden eager to get one over his younger sibling. And then finally, before we park your rugby league, always plenty to cover off and it does take a while, but wanted to touch on the NRLW quickly as well. There were some big results in this last week. Shout out to the Dragons, who handed the Knights their first loss of the season, an upset in Niue, 18 points to 10. And Tyler King, of course, Sevens superstar for the Black Ferns Sevens, fresh off winning gold, having a big impact in her first game for the Drags. And similar for Stacey Waka in the Broncos women's side, as they got the dub, 44 points to 14, up against their crosstown rivals in the Titans. Mele Hufanga probably scored one of the tries of the season for both the women's and the men's game. That was some individual brilliance. Looked like that Toby Crosby try that he scored in flag, but she's doing it at the top level. A real attacking weapon she is. And then shout out to the Titans skipper, Georgia Hale, Kiwi great. Although they got pumped, she made 61 tackles in this game. A monstrous effort from her. Sharkies top of the ladder at the moment. Roosters in second, Eels in third, Knights in fourth. If you haven't been watching much of the NRLW so far, tune in this week. Some great games on offer yet again. Sharks versus Knights. That's a real top of the table clash and should be a doozy as well. Well, once again, the Argentinians have ambushed us on New Zealand soil the second time in the last 2 years, 38 points to 30. No one gave them a shot. They went down to the cake tin and they got the job done. And not only did they beat us, they denied us of a bonus point too, to have us sitting on the donut after the first round of the Rugby Championship. I didn't see this result coming. Argentina, their form coming into this had been a little bit patchy. Split their series with a second string French side, then dusted Uruguay as you would expect, but I thought this was going to be a step too far for them, particularly a side that doesn't travel that well. When you flash back to last year's World Cup as well, semi-final, I think it was about 44 points to 6, we dispatched of them fairly easily, so I was shocked to see this result at full time. And the biggest takeaways from the game for this one for me, I thought our pack got bullied by Argentina, who were clearly up for the physical battle. We knew going in it was a big side that loves taking on teams up front, but their defence was relentless, not just with their line speed, but also their ability to chop tackle effectively and defend for multiple phases at a time. We struggled at times to get through them. Some individual brilliance saw us score points, but multiple phases they were able to just absorb all pressure we were throwing at us and then turn us away. Their loose forward trio dominated ours too, had their way all game, and I really thought ex-Crusader Pablo Matera really put his hand up too. That trio of theirs, that was a world-class performance and one I didn't expect. On attack, I love the way they threw the ball around a little, showing a lot more enterprise and flair than they have the last couple years. There's some skillful players in that side, and the talent was certainly on display on the weekend. It's not easy to score 38 points against a proud team like the All Blacks. I thought they were incredibly sharp, while at the same time still doing the things we come to expect of them, dominating the kicking and territory battle, not missing conversions, taking threes when they're on offer. Some of the tries they scored, though, extremely impressive, so you have to tip your hat to them. And it was interesting to hear their assistant coach at halftime say too that the boys were up for it. They were keen to throw the ball about. He had to temper their attack a little and just tell them to focus on the job. I love seeing that from Argentina, such a passionate country and fan base, and the players, they were clearly up for this one. It's not often the All Blacks as well lead by a large amount in a game and get pegged back. They were up 20 points to 8 after 36 minutes, and I thought this was game over, but full credit to the Argentinians who never went away. Shows how much internal belief they have in this side. They just kept slowly applying pressure. All Blacks looked a bit rattled at times too, and they were really good at converting every opportunity they got into points. Interesting point to note as well, on 4 occasions where the All Blacks scored points, Argentina then went on to score within the next 4 minutes, whether that be a try or a penalty, either due to poor or ineffective exit from the All Blacks, uncharacteristic errors, or just some good footy from the Argentinians. That Carreras try right before halftime was key to keeping them in the game, and then that try straight after halftime ramped them up to another level of momentum as well. Interesting to note, 60 minutes of no scrums. That has to be a first, surely. And as a fan, I thought it was great. Clearly, those shot clock laws and those other variations they were experimenting with to try and keep the ball in play more and speed up the game, I thought they really worked. But going 60 minutes without a scrum, that's a prop's worst nightmare. Felt sorry for Ethan de Groot and Tyrell Lomax. Almost straight after they got subbed, the scrums started occurring. Those two both frothed them, so no doubt they were pretty FOMO on the bench. You'd have to wonder if that played a bit of a factor into the result too. I referenced that World Cup semi-final not long ago. In that game, we dominated them at scrum time. That sucks a lot of energy out of the opposition forward pack. We were unable to use that as a weapon for us. We're so strong at scrum time and set piece. And Argentina, as a result, they had plenty energy in the tank, which they were able to use in other areas across the park. So something to factor in there. Shout out to Augustine Creevy. What a legend he is. 39 years old, a 19-year test career, retired last year, but he came back to answer his country's call because they were struggling for quality hookers. Won a crucial turnover, scored the game winner, those 2 passes from the All Blacks that led to a try. That was like watching under 8s. I think the first one was Ardy, passed about 5 metres behind us, then D-Mac rushed back, scooped it up, did the exact same thing. Couple phases later, Creevy scores off a pick and go, but what a player he is. Gives me hope to push out the old club career at least another 7 years too. 39, playing international code, and not just playing, standing out and leading your country to a famous win like that. That is impressive scenes. Shout out to Sam Derry for the All Blacks. I thought he was our best on the paddock, and that is not a statement I thought I'd be making this time last week. He was paying $51 to be the first try scorer in this game, and albeit he was a bit fortunate there, the bounce of the ball, that was a bloody epic try though, full field length from the All Blacks. Derry's the one to ice it under the sticks, which is great support play from him, but I thought he had a great game all around the paddock, especially for such a young and inexperienced lad too, up against a physically imposing team. I thought he looked like he belonged in the test arena. Still so much footy ahead of him. So an exciting little first start for old Dazza. Shout out to Angus Gardner as well, while we're doing shout outs, for not listening to the TMO on that Blackadder call. I thought he was great as a referee all night. Always has great rapport with the players, clear, effective communication. And that TMO sequence really did piss me off, to be fair. You could tell they were just looking for an excuse to send someone. Angus stood by his beliefs. He thought there wasn't much in it, didn't warrant a binning, just a penalty. So good on him for not getting talked into making a stupid decision. The fact that TMOs can have that much potential impact on the game is clearly a big problem. We've seen it cost the All Blacks and other teams the win before in recent history, so well done to him. Overall, a tough night to take at the Cake Tin. We've lost our 5 straight games there, and we've lost 6 of the last 7 too, so in my humble opinion, I don't think we should be rushing back to old Windy Valley to play footy anytime soon. Really keen to see how Razor bounces back here though. His first test loss as All Black captain, and by all accounts, he doesn't like to lose often, and it's not something he's had to do much throughout his career. He's lost a couple games at Super Rugby, but to me, losing at test level, that's so much bigger. You literally come under the spotlight from the whole nation. Interesting too, last time we lost to Argentina, first test last year in Christchurch, we then bounced back, put 50 on them the week after. So I'm expecting a big response, and I think Razor's attitude, mindset, his motivation, he would have been ripping into the lads this week, lighting a firecracker under them, and I think that's going to play a huge part in us righting our wrongs. Eden Park, we just don't lose there, so I do think the lads go out and get the job done this week. Before week off, then heading over to South Africa, and geez, what a scary task that looks to be off the back of their performance on the weekend. They were just unreal. Of course, they went over to Brizzy, Suncorp, sold out. Great to see the Aussie fans showing up. 54,000 bums on seats. You love that. But what they were treated to will hardly get them back through the turnstiles next week. 33 points to 7. Rassi's lads just dominated them in every area. I thought the Boks were going to be too good. Tipped them 1-12. Didn't see a pantsing coming, and it took for them to be down to 13 men just for the Wallabies to score late. 76th minute they scored to get themselves off the donut. It was a statement win from the Boks, outscored them 5 tries to 1. They were relentless on attack and ruthless on defence. That forward pack of theirs is massive, genuinely sends shivers down your spine. They killed the Wallabies at scrum time and at line out, dominated them at ruck, and basically won every individual battle around the park as well. Aussie, they just weren't able to get any front football at all. I love the look of the young 10 as well. Sasha Feinenberg gave him a rap last week. He frees up that backline so much with his ball playing ability, his want to run. Jesse Creel and co had themselves a day as a result of that, and I thought they played a really exciting brand of rugby too, which has to partly be down to the inclusion of Tony Brown in their attacking structures. They look to be deadly. That little maul move they pulled off at line-out time was really nice too. The old dual lift where one pod, the back pod, passes it to the front pod in the air. They shift the area of the maul. Little things like that, Rassi's tricks. They truly do look like they're a level above everyone else in this rugby championship at the moment, which was a pretty scary sight. This week, Rassi, he's rolled the changes as well. 9 changes made to the starting lineup, so it's all go for them. Again, commend them for naming their team early in the week so I can talk about it on this pod. Still expect them to be strong though, despite emptying the Remu. They just looked way too good for Aussie, so I'm backing them 13 plus again this week to flex their muscles even more. NPC, round 1, how good was it? The old Bunnings Far Cup dished up a couple of upsets and a few results that we were expecting too, but for me, every game, it's just an exciting style of football. Teams throwing it round. Semi reminds me of the old under-20s back in the rugby league in the day. High-octane offense. Don't get me wrong, they still try to limit the points on defense, but there's so much individual talent on display. Southland, big result for me, getting the dub in front of a big crowd down there against their crosstown rivals, the old Golden O's in Otago. Shout out to Northland as well, put up a good fight against Canterbury. Bay of Plenty beating Waikato, and then Harbour. First 65 minutes, they were on against Hawke's Bay all day. Unfortunately got mowed home in the last 15, which was a tough pill to swallow. Really tough for a lot of your bet slips as well. They were coming through to me thick and fast. A lot of you on that power play too. Shooter to score, Harbour to win by 1 to 20 points. I was preaching the gospel all week. They were going to get the job done in round 1 at home. Unfortunately, just not to be. Do see some good signs there. I think subbing Bryn Hall and Tane Edmund off was the wrong move. We conceded 24 points in the last 15 minutes without them on, and Falau Fakatava, he was really solid too, putting up his hand to show he shouldn't be the 6th rank All Black in New Zealand rugby. Some big games this week, including a game on right now, which will be last night by the time you're listening to this. Bay of Plenty taking on Counties. Wednesday night rugby, how bloody good. But Friday night, Otago versus Auckland. Disappointing shift from Otago first up. They got some talented players in that lineup, but they didn't live up to the hype, that's for sure. Auckland, tough, close first loss at home up against Wally, but those are still 2 of your competition big dogs, so you're willing to cop that one. Tasman versus Canterbury, Battle of the Crusaders. Crusaders region in Nelson. That'll be a good game. Tasman proved way too strong for Manawatu last week. Mentioned Northland pushed Canterbury. I was a little disappointing with Canterbury. Impressed with Northland at the same time, though. I think that Tasman side might get the chockies there. Northland versus Manawatu. Historically, this one's been a wooden spoon bowl, but I do think the Cody, the Tunnies, they will be a decent side this year, and I'm backing them in Whangarei to get the job done. Hawke's Bay all day up against Southland. I'll touch on this more in the punting chat, but the bookies giving the Stags no chance. Clearly they didn't watch their game last week. Pretty disrespectful stuff. Do expect Hawke's Bay to defend the Shield, because of course they'll put a bit more focus on those home games this year, looking to defend the old log of wood that they famously broke on their antics. Good on them. Bay of Plenty, Storm week for them. 3 games in 7 days. They host the mighty Harbour Heat on Sunday Arvo. So I think that'll get Harbour over the line there. The fatigue of the Bay. They'll have to rest a few bodies. Bay of Plenty coach, if you're listening, feel free to give him Moni Narawa and co the weekend off so we can come away with the points in our first dub there. And then Counties, Waikato to round us out. 4:35 on your Sunday Arvo. That should be a goodie as well. So plenty of 15-man code to sink the teeth into this week. All Blacks bounce back in a major way. So do the Heat. In South Africa, foot on the throat against Joe Schmidt and the Wallabies. She's going to be an interesting watch. Right, fire up the TAB app. It's time to have a cheeky little flutter, a Carmichael punt, responsibly, of course. Green ticks on bet slips. That is the goal for this weekend. There's so much sport, top level stuff to tuck the teeth into as well, which makes for an exciting weekend on the old betting. Kicks off tonight with that top of the table clash, lip licking stuff. Panthers $1.60 favourites. The Melbourne Storm $2.35. The line is 3.5. Panthers, they've won 5 of their last 7 games against Melbourne, but the Storm have won 7 of their last 8 away games. Brian To'o, he scored 6 tries in his last 4 games against the Storm. He's paying $1.80. And Panthers halfback Nathan Cleary, he scored 64 points in his last 4 games. Kicking really well and scoring meaties for fun as well. There's a nice boost on him. I noticed that one on the TAB app. For him to dot down anytime and the Panthers to win, that's been boosted up from $3.75 into $4.50. I like that bet, so that is the bet I'm going to jump on. You could chuck a little cheeky Brian To'o in the mixer too. I think this game's going to go right down to the wire. Pappenhausen, Warbrick, Grant Anderson, plenty of try-scoring options. Personally, I'm backing the Panthers to get the job done, and I think the People's Chin will salute on that boost as well. Friday night footy, and this is a chance to really fill up our accounts, because I think a couple of these sides, these 2 teams in particular, are paying massive overs. You got Manly, $1.17 favourites, the Warriors, 5 rugby league dollars, and it gets even more disrespectful. The line is 15.5 points. What the actual fuck are the bookies up to there? Look, stats suggest Manly will be on here. They've won 8 of their last 9 games at home. The Warriors have only won 1 of our last 5 games at Brookie as well. Tommy Talau, he scored 10 tries in his last 9 games, paying $1.85. Dallin, he scored 5 tries in his last 2 games against Manly. He's paying $2.10. That's massive odds for Dell. Anytime you can get him at $2 plus is an absolute bargain. $5.50 for 2 or more. Those stats suggest he loves going up in multiples against Manly, so that's some real jam too. Jason Saab, he scored 8 tries in 4 games against us, the old Saab Marine. He's paying $1.50 to dot and $2.85 for 2 or more. Remember, got that code active for this game too. The Surly Talk Sports listeners special. Chuck in the code STS50 in the bonus cash section before you place a bet on this matchup. Then the TAB will match your bet up to $50 in bonus cash. You can get on the power plays, the boosted options, same game multis. As long as it falls under that Warriors vs Manly umbrella, then it's fair game. In terms of my best bet for this one, I'm actually going to go to the Surly boost here, and I think I've cooked up a really juicy and lucrative option. I've gone Dallin and Saab to combine for 2 or more tries, and the Warriors at a plus 11.5 handicap that's been boosted up from $5 to $6. Stats suggest that that is a shoo-in. I reckon this game's going to be really tight. Remember, Golden Point last time we faced them. I think we go over to Manly with a really strong side and give them a red hot crack. $6 for that. I'm going to scoff that up well and truly, so that is my best bet for this one. Then Roosters versus Eels after that. Chooks $1.15 favourites. Eels $5.60. The line is 17.5. I tell you what, there's some massive lines to be had on your Friday night footy. Old Latrell Mitchell, he would be keen for those, I'm sure. Roosters, they've won 5 of their last 6 games against Para. The Roosters have also scored 116 points in their last 3 games at Allianz Stadium. And the Eels, they've only won 1 from 9 away from home in 2024. Blaze Talangi, he scored 7 tries in his last 8 games. He's paying $2.65. And Joseph Suali'i, he scored 6 tries in 4 games against Para, paying $2.50. So I'm going to back the stats in here. I'm going to take that Eels on the line. They've been pretty fiery over the last couple of weeks. Push Penrith right to the wire and bet us, of course. So Eels plus 17.5 into Blaze and Joseph Suali'i. That pays $13.47. Remember, with all these same game multis as well, if they miss by 1, you'll get your money back in bonus cash up to $50. $13.47 for that seems extremely generous, so I'll be jumping on board. Super Saturday triple header. Dogs kick us off, $1.52 favourites up against the Redcliffe Finns, who are playing $2.55. The Bulldogs have won 9 straight home games this year. They have taken this one to Bundaberg though, which is a little bit different. Dolphins winger Jermaine Isako, he's kicked his last 28 straight goals, was banging them over against us too, the bastard, on the weekend. The Bulldogs, they've only won 2 of their last 9 games in Queensland, which makes that Bundy switch bloody intriguing. Cody Nikarima, old Cody's 8%er. He'll play his 200th NRL game this week, so congrats to him. He's paying $5.50 to score anytime for a little milestone option. Of course, saluted against the Warriors. Can he go back to back? He was looking bloody sharp on the weekend. And then Bulldogs centre Bronson Jerry, he scored 5 tries in his last 5 games. He's paying $2.15. Personally, I like the Dogs here though, even though this home game in Bundy, that Queensland factor could come back to fuck them, but I'm going to jump on board with them, and then Bronson to dot down for a handy little return. Cowboys $1.48, hosting the Raiders $2.65. The line is 6.5. The Cowboys, they've won their last 5 straight against the Green Machine, so a real bogey side for Ricky Stewart's lads. The Raiders, they've only won 2 of their last 8 away games as well. Xavier Savage, he's a savage, classy, bougie, ratchet, and he's scored 3 tries in his last 4 games at $1.94. Kyle Felt, he scored 5 tries in his last 3 games at $1.48. And Tommy Dearden, he'll play his 100th NRL game, $2.80 for him to dot down in terms of your try scorers. For me though, I really like getting on Valentine here, of course. Announced he's leaving, a bit of a Vale Val bet, so I'm going to go him into the Felt tip. Kyle Felt and the Cowboys to win. That's paying $4.44, triple fours. Surely that is an omen. Tigers versus Bunnies. Tigers $2.65, Bunnies $48 for your poo slinger in your middle of your triple header. Tigers, they've only won 1 of their last 11 games at Campbelltown, which is bloody interesting because I thought they always gave it a red hot crack there. The Bunnies, they will also play their first game at Campbelltown since 1999. The Rabbitohs have won 8 of their last 9 straight against the Tigers. For your try scorers, I have a Dream Bullavanaka, aka Dream Bulla. He scored 5 tries in his last 6 games, paying $2.10. And Shit Stains, old Charlie Stains, he scored 3 tries in his last 3 games at Campbelltown, paying $2.02. For me, my same game multi here, Bunnies into Jacob Gagai and Shit Stains, $5.57, a bit of a wicked wingers bet there. Then Super Sunday, doubleheader to round us out. Dragons $1.58 favourites, Tigers paying $2.40. The Dragons, they've won 3 of their last 4 against the Titans and 3 of their last 4 games at home at Wynn Stadium too. The Titans, they've lost 5 from 5 at Wynn Stadium. They hate going there. Tyrell Sloan, he scored 9 tries in his last 11 home games, paying $1.90. And Kieran Foran, old mate Foz, the Fossil, he will play his 300th game. What an absolute weapon, of course. Touched on him him earlier, but $5.75 for him is great stuff. So from this game, obviously, result doesn't worry me too much. Two sides that are both fighting to stay into the 8, so they'll really want to win this one. But as a mutual fan, it doesn't exactly get the blood flowing through your veins. So instead, I'm just going to ride home the great man, Kiwis half and hooker, Kieran Foran, $5.75. Go, you good thing. Then you got the Sharkies taking on the Knights, final game of the round. $1.36 favourites for the Sharks, taking on the Knights, paying $3.10. The Sharks, they've won 3 of their last 4 games against the Knights, and the Knights haven't won at Shark Park since 2014, which is 10 years if my math is correct. Sione Katoa, aka the Katoa, he's scored 7 tries in his last 8 games at home, paying $1.55. Sam Stonestreet, the other winger, he scored 4 tries in 3 games. What a name that is, Sammy Stonestreet. $1.55 for him, but I do think he drops out of this lineup, and I expect Ronaldo and Co to all come back in. Tyson Frizzell, he scored 3 tries in his last 4 games for the Knights, paying $3.60, so a nice juicy option there. And Fletcher Sharp, he bagged 4 meaties last week, the old quad meat, paying $2. Interesting, Greggy Marju, Greg the Leg, he's only scored 1 try in his last 4 games and 6 in his 17 games this year. That's really low for him. He was a try-scoring machine last year, a real bowling ball. He was skittling defenders left, right and centre, but this year just hasn't been the one for him. Personally, for my same game multi in this one, I'm going to wait till game day just for that confirmed Sharks side. Then, if everyone comes in like I think they will, I'm going to go Katoa, Trindle and Ronaldo, all as a same game multi, 3 try scorers, and help yourself to round out the round. Rugby Union, All Blacks looking to bounce back in a major way, and still the public well and truly on board. $1.17 favourites, Argentina paying $4.60, and the line is 13.5. That has to be the Eden Park factor coming through there, surely, because we got done last week. You think there'd be a few people riding on the edge, but that home impressive record at the Garden of Eden has us well and truly back on board. All Blacks 1-12. $2.90, 13 plus, the most popular winning margin at $1.72. Argentina 1-12, for all those less faithful out there, paying $5.75. For me, I like us head-to-head at $1.17, but I'm not a coward. I'm not going to tip that out. That's way too less a payment. The line makes me nervous, and so does the 13 plus. But I found some value in your winning margin market in that 11 to 20 point region. I'm expecting it to be reasonably tight, but I think we'll get them in that 12 to 15 margin to be even more specific. So the 11 to 20 bracket, All Blacks win within that. $3.50. Jump on board. Team not out for your try scorers, but I like Sevu if he starts, and also Will the Thrill to chuck together a little same game multi there. Australia, $4.40. South Africa, $1.18 in Perth. Won't be going to this game, but I'll be watching it at a pub bloody close to the stadium, no doubt. And how the All Blacks are shorter head-to-head favourites than the Springboks after they put 33 on Aussie last week is pretty bizarre. The line is also smaller in this game than that All Blacks Argentina game. So South Africa 1-12, that's $2.90, 13 plus $1.85. Aussie 1-12 at $5.75. For me, I like South Africa again, but the head-to-head is too low. You could go the line or the safer option, South Africa -7.5. Tease that down to $1.47. I just can't see how Aussie pull this off. South Africa way too dominant last game. For your try scorers, Mapimpi and Jesse Creel in the backs, and then I like the hooker, Grobler, in the forwards for a cheeky little rolling maul bet. I think he'll be a good shout. NPC, your premier level of footy, the old Bunnings Far Cup, plenty of games on. There's one on as I record this as well, Wednesday night footy. How bloody good is it? But for this weekend's games kicking off on your Friday, I'll run through each matchup and just who I'll be backing there. Otago, heavy underdogs at home up against Auckland, who are $1.30 favourites, and I'll be backing them in. Otago, they looked all at sea. Northland, $1.17 favourites against the Turbos. I'm taking the Tunnies there all day. Tasman, $1.55 favourites at home up against Canterbury, paying $2.40. This is a huge game in Nelson, which is the decider for me, but it's the Battle of the Crusaders region. I'm going to tip Tasman in a tight one at $1.55. Not a bad little multi edition, that one. Hawke's Bay all day, $1.11 favourites against Southland in the Bay, $5.75 for Southland. Put some respect on the Stags. I'm back in the Bay, but I don't think it'll be a blowout. The 15.5 line, I'm going to have a little Kyle Flanagan nibble on that one and get around the Stags plus 15.5. Bay of Plenty versus Harbour, no odds out at time of recording because like I said, they're playing in Wednesday night footy tonight. Do expect there to be some changes in their team though. Harbour, they will be stinging off the back of that disappointing second half effort, so get on the heat there. Head to head, I do expect they'll be underdogs. Wellington, $1.37 favourites up against their crosstown rivals in Taranaki, $2.90. Going to take Welly at home, and it must be rivalry round because then we get Counties Waikato to round us out too. Battle of the Chiefs region, I'm going to take Waikato on the road. Was a little disappointed with Counties last week, so for your NPC multi, Auckland, Tasman, Northland, Harbour, get amongst that. And actually make sure you check out the TAB app or website on game day. Some of the power plays they dish up, try scorer odds, there's some juicy stuff on offer and some great investments to be had if you play eyes up footy and jump on just before games kick off. Then finally, of course, UFC 305. Have to touch on this. We'll get into your main card, dish out my tips for that, and then a couple other cheekies to round out your multi. The three Kiwis on the main card. I think Gamrot, unfortunately, going to be too strong for Dan Hooker. I love Dan, but that's a bloody tough fight. One thing we do though know, Hooker won't go down without giving him a red hot crack, and there is that possibility, like I mentioned in the preview before, that he could just catch him with one and take the dub. Apart from that, though, I think Gamrot gets it, and it could well go the distance, so something to keep an eye on there. Kai Carter France, $2.40 underdog, up against Urseg, who's a good fighter. He's a true blue, fair dinkum Aussie lad who deserves his respect, but I don't think he deserves to be such a heavy favourite in this one. The fact Kai hasn't fought in a while certainly plays into that, but I'm backing Kai here. Double chance option as a KO or decision at $2.55 is the best option in this fight for me. I'm well and truly team don't blink. That could be a patriotism bet, and because Kai is an absolute legend, Warriors wrestling coach, but it is what it is, and that's where I'll be chucking my money on responsibly. Izzy, main event up against Drickus, and for me, he gets this done. It's going to be interesting. Two great scrappers, lots on the line. Of course, you got the belt, but then you've also got bragging rights, the King of Africa. These two clearly don't like each other. Drickus, he's a weapon, but Izzy, he's locked in, and when he is, he just goes to another level. He's not worried about the partying, the socializing. He's been in the lab training hard, and I reckon he gets the job done here. He's up there with one of the greatest to do it when his mind is well and truly in it. So $1.87 for an in-form and keen to win style bet. I'm taking that. Your other bets I like Justin Tuffer to win by KO, and then that Tai Tuivasa fight to not go the distance. Either way, someone's getting slept in that one, so both of those are great multi-fillers. For the main event, best bets though, Kai, KO all points, double chance at $2.55. Multi that up with Izzy just to get the job done head to head at $1.87. That's a nice little two-legger, paying $4.76, which is pretty juicy stuff. My bet of the week, 15 from 22 on these. Had Harbour head to head. They shat the bed in the last 10, so huge up yours truly to them right there. This week though, I'm going Izzy to get the dub. Go you good thing, hand raised and new. He becomes the third-time champ in that division, $1.87. Say Lessie Ray Arcee. And then for your Magic Multi this week, last week I went the Patriot bet, went 0 from 3. Appears I jinxed all of those teams, but I don't believe in that shit, so this week I'm running it back. Warriors plus 15.5, All Blacks head-to-head, Kai and Izzy head-to-head, $10.60 for 4 little box ticks there. How bloody good. That's us for another week. Surly Talk Sports. As always, cheers for your ears. Really appreciate everyone for tuning in. She really is a sporting smorgasbord this weekend. Something for everyone. So hope you enjoy it. I'll be back next week, post-Perth, hopefully with some tales, some antics, and a bit of a debrief for you to reminisce on Izzy being the champ, Kai getting the job done, Dan getting the job done too. A three-peat for the Kiwi lads. That would be great stuff. Warriors upsetting Manly. All Blacks riding the wrongs from Argentina last weekend. So enjoy it, and I'll catch you back here next Thursday. Big Fizz.